I cannot believe that I'm making this video, but the DOJ announces plans to prioritize cases to revoke citizenship. Are you guys out of your fucking minds? That is the only question that I have. Are you guys thinking, or are you guys smoking the good? Imagine being an immigrant in this country and you go through the process and then you get a visa, you get a work permit, you get a green card, and then you get citizenship. Only for Trump to come to office and to be like, you know what? No, we are going to take your citizenship away. And we already have one person that has been denaturalized in recent weeks. On June 13th, a judge ordered the revocation of the citizenship of Elliot Duke, who uses they/them pronouns. Duke is an American military veteran originally from UK who was convicted of distributing child sexual abuse materials, something they later admitted they were doing prior to becoming a US citizen. You guys didn't think the video was gonna go the way you thought it was gonna go, did you now? How can you be against this? Dear liberals, dear leftists, go ahead and make your case that this guy distributed child sexual abuse material before he was a US citizen. The United States government found out and they took his citizenship away. Go ahead, make your argument why that is bad. Because according to NPR, but immigration law experts express serious concerns about the effort's constitutionality and how this could impact families of naturalized citizens. How about you don't do heinous crimes? How about that? How about you don't, I don't know, distribute child sex materials while you're here on a visa or green card or work permit or whatever the case it is? How about that? Why do we have to worry about their families when they don't care about our children? I cannot believe that I make...
Good morning, Owasso. This is Chad with Owasso Live, and this is the Morning Loop. Happy 4th of July, everybody. That's today, Independence Day, America's Day. But as you can see, that's what we're kind of talking about today is immigration and Trump trying to take away people's citizenship that are, criminals, convicted criminals here in the United States and abroad. Because it says on the immigration form, you have to be a person of good character. And that person that he was just talking about, that fellow right there was just talking about, which comes from Emma Grateful. And, it's like that person was a child abuser. They're obviously not a person of good moral character. So we have the right to take away someone's citizenships if we decide that they're not a good person of moral character, especially if they come here to break our laws. That is 100% the case and should be. We have the right to say no to you if you decide that you're going to become a criminal at some point. You don't just get to stay in America because you become a citizen. You can become a citizen, but we can also take your citizenship away, at least if you immigrate to this nation. So I thought that was a really good point that he brought up, and that, again, it's what we talk about all the time. It's like, liberals, how are you defending murderers and sexual assaulters of women and children staying in this country? It is absolutely ridiculous that you will defend that these are the people you're protecting. Find the people that are being deported. You can try to find the people that are being deported for not doing anything wrong, but I bet you that's going to be a super rare occasion thing, not something that's happening regularly. They're only deporting people with criminal records. So why are you defending this? It makes no sense. Liberals are a very strange group of people, always have been, but that's what we're getting into right now. We're going to get into
Trump
basically what's been going on regarding the Supreme Court with them trying to block people from Trump being able to strip citizenship. So, and what we've been talking about on this show for a few times now is the fact that lower courts being able to overrule the president is absolutely insane. So let's get to this article here. This comes from Politico. Supreme Court hands Trump major win, limits judges' ability to block birthright citizenship order nationwide. The judges did not decisively resolve the legality of the executive order. This is by Josh Gerenstein. The Supreme Court has handed President Donald Trump a major victory by a narrow nationwide injunction that blocked his executive order purporting to end the right to birthright citizenship. In doing so, the court sharply curtailed the power of the individual district court judges to issue injunctions blocking federal government policies nationwide. The justices, in a 6-3 vote along ideological lines, said that in most cases, judges can only grant relief to the individuals or groups who are brought a particular lawsuit and may not extend to those who protected other individuals without going through the process of converting to a lawsuit into a class action. A special type of litigation requires challengers to clear procedural hurdles. Yeah, judges can only rule on cases that they judge on in their court. Just because a judge waves his hand and goes, okay, you're a citizen, does not mean that that applies to every person in the United States. It only applies to the people in their courtroom. Judges don't have that type of power. Judges can only officiate over what happens in their courts. They can be used, and then their case can be cited as an example in a later court, but it's not something that's just a hand wave, oh, everybody's a citizen now, yay! That type of power is unheard of for a judge. I mean, that's more power than the freaking Supreme Court would have at that point. I mean, it would be, you'd have no reason not to ever just not want to be just a federal circuit court judge at that point. You're like, wow, I have all the power in the world right now. So to have more power than the president and every other branch of government, that would be absolutely ridiculous. The Universal Injunction was conspicuously non-existent for most of our nation's history. Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote in the majority opinion, the ruling on Friday came in connection with 3 lawsuits in which judges granted nationwide injunctions against the executive order Trump signed on his very first day of his second term, seeking to deny American citizenship to children born in the U.S. to foreign on short-term visas to those without legal status. The judges said the order is patently unconstitutional because it conflicts with the Supreme Court precedent of the text of the 14th Amendment, which says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States, as subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States. Yes, but there's also parts of this that they're not. That was literally granted to African American slaves that were in the United States. That way they guaranteed them citizenship. It actively excluded Native Americans. So you have to answer that question right now. Is like, if it excluded Native Americans from being citizens of the United States of America, recognized by the federal government, why on earth would it just recognize Mexican citizens that come up, or Hispanics, or wherever you come from? The fact that you can just come here, have a child, and that child's an American citizen is insane. That's not how it works. That's not how the founding fathers and the people who wrote the 14th Amendment intended it to work, because you have to explain why Native Americans were excluded from it, because they're born Americans. They were born in the United States of America. I mean, you could argue maybe not fully because, we didn't have all the states at that point, but I mean, these are questions that liberals don't ever answer. They're just like, oh, it counts for everything that we want it to. It's like they don't take any other history into account. That's why liberals hate history. History really matters, because people who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. The Supreme Court did not rule Friday on the underlying constitutionality of Trump's executive order. The 3 liberal justices in dissent said that president's directive is clearly illegal. The court's decision to permit executives to violate the Constitution with respect to anyone who has not yet sued is an existential threat to the rule of law, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote in a dissent. Which, getting to her dissent, someone has there's been several claims that said that she used ChatGPT to write her dissent because of how strange it was worded. It was like, this was not written by a person. While the court's ruling appears to be a major victory for Trump, it does include an important caveat. The court left open the possibility of a nationwide relief in lawsuits brought by the government. That's because Barrett wrote, it's possible that a nationwide injunction could be necessary to fashion complete relief for the states in the lawsuits they bring. Barrett said that the court intentionally declined to answer that question and would allow lower courts to ponder it in the meantime. Kyle Cheney contributed to this report. Okay. Well, there you go. So, universal injunctions are blocked as of right now from Donald Trump, at least nationwide ones. Like I said, the people can still go to court and get an appeal in a lower court like those federal circuit courts, but they can't. The circuit courts cannot just rule and be like, oh, nope, unconstitutional, bye. And I will show you what's going on with these universal injunctions right here. Breakdown of the universal injunctions. Look right here. All-time total of nationwide injunctions. Just shy of 130 universal injunctions have ever been used. Bush, looks like he had about 5 used on him. Obama had about 11 or 12. Oh, yep, there it is. 6 for Bush, 12 for Obama, 14 for Biden. Let's go look at Donald Trump in his first term. Wow, 64. That's well over half. So that means that the Democratic lower court judges have used 64 of these injunctions that have only ever been just shy of 100 and how many, let's see exactly, 127. 127, and Trump has had 64 used against him. And they say that the right wing uses its power against the left. This is clearly not the case. The left overuses its authority all the time trying to stop President Trump. This is absolutely ridiculous. Look at that. 64. These things hardly ever get used throughout all of history. 64 have been used on Donald Trump. That is absolutely insane. Which brings me to my next story, which is the left's new conspiracy theory. As soon as this happened, as soon as this universal injunction stopped, what happened? This new left-wing conspiracy started up. The new left-wing conspiracy is that Trump is throwing immigrants off planes and into the ocean for real. And as you can see, they photoshopped his face over Harrison Ford's from Air Force One. Get off my plane. Which is absolutely hilarious. But this is from Not the Bee, which is the Babylon Bee's actual news organization, whereas the Babylon Bee is satire, which is sad because most of their satire ends up becoming true. Like, the Democrats will literally post something that's completely related to something that the Babylon Bee satired. And then Not the Bee is their actual news site now. So this is from Joel Abbott. Blue Anon is not doing well this week. Warning for language. Yeah, these people are unhinged. But yeah, the newest conspiracy theory on TikTok is that ICE is loading up illegals on cargo planes and tossing them into the ocean. This Trump derangement syndrome is level 1,000 now. Yeah, check this out. Oh, man, I forgot to hit the dang button again. There we go. My bad, everybody.
Guys, they're throwing the deportees out of the planes and into the ocean. No, this is not a drill. No, this is not fear-mongering. They're shackling people, flying out into open ocean and throwing them out. Okay? The flight patterns, there's people tracking them on this app. The flights going out with the deportees, watching them go out to open ocean and circle back. A family in Italy saw 5 shackled bodies wash up on the shore. No, but seriously, on everything that you stand for, whether it's bullshit, consumerist propaganda, or actual leftist good values, or whatever the fuck it is you believe in, things are getting serious. I know I'm a small creator and the likelihood that I am shadow banned is very small, but I'm telling you, I'm fairly certain I am shadow banned because I talk about this stuff. If you look at my like to view ratios, they're great. I have several viral videos. I don't understand why I'm doing so badly. No, my shit's not boring. No, I'm not boring. No, I'm not funny or not okay to look at or whatever the fucking issue is that would cause me to not be getting the likes and follows and views that I should be getting based off of the ratios of the videos that I do put out. I'll keep talking about this stuff. I'll keep making videos. Am I getting a little discouraged? Yeah. But understand, things are getting... We're frogs in already boiling water. We're in the boiling water. The water is roiling boil. Okay? They're throwing deportees into the ocean.
And I don't like them putting stuff in the water that turns the frickin' frogs gay. Yeah, that girl is completely unhinged. Completely unhinged. But if the nose ring wasn't enough to tell you that she's crazy, you know, her her just speaking and saying that is unhinged. And this is also forgetting the fact that this is in the Mediterranean. I didn't realize we were deporting people from the United States all the way over to the Mediterranean. But, I mean, I guess there was one case of that, but let's see here. They're throwing deportees out of planes and throwing them into the ocean. So my first question is why they need to be shackled for that? The left also, actual leftists, good values. Or the fact that half of every very important video is spent talking about how obviously she's been shadow banned, so why can't people warn her about, so she can't warn people about literally Hitler. But this is what leftists really believe. Ice planes leave for Sudan. Sudan ice planes never arrive. Ice planes arrive back empty. Shackled bodies wash up on the beach in Majorca, downstream of the U.S. regime airbase. So they really believe this. And if you remember right, this plane got stopped and halted, and it went to Jordan. It diverted to Jordan because they were trying to go to Sudan, but that was when those injunctions happened, and they halted the plane. So it never actually made it to Sudan, from my understanding. Wait, I'm confused. The first lady said shackled bodies washed ashore in Italy. This second lady with the nose ring, Pentagon, and the green hijab in her profile picture says it was Spain. Only the scandalous deportation flights to Africa is the one bound for South Sudan that got stuck in Djibouti. ICE agents and deportees both. After the activist leftist judges halted Trump's deportation plan, the agents were instructed to await in a nearby U.S. naval base, Camp Lemonnier. But y'all are going to be accuse the democratically elected president of dropping bodies out of a plane, an awfully expensive way of killing millions of criminal aliens to prove that we're all evil Nazis. We're going to make a meme out of this, and they did. True, I was deep fish sea diving in the Gulf of America last week, and I saw a plane fly overhead. After it flew by, I saw several figures being tossed out and faintly heard someone yell, "Aye, aye, aye." Dude, these memes are out of control. 100% accurate. I was able to capture this video evidence of ICE agents throwing illegals into the ocean where they belong.
Get him out!
Wow.
No, please!
Oh, man. The left is insane. There have been at least 5 bodies found near Spain island of Madricula since mid-May. I saw pictures of a few African migrants whose bodies washed up ashore. Absolutely horrific stuff. Multiple bodies were found with their hands and feet tied in the Mediterranean Sea off Spain. Okay, what's more plausible here? The Trump administration is secretly dropping shackled North Africans out of C-130s after flying across the Atlantic Ocean to reach a specific point in the Mediterranean where the bodies are likely to wash up near a popular tourist destination. 2, traffickers who have spent decades of mass human smuggling operations from North Africa to Europe have tossed 5 or 6 passengers overboard, and passengers causing problems or didn't pay. Yeah, that's more likely the case. Because you remember, we saw that was the whole thing about why we needed to take in immigrants from, like, why the European nations had to take in immigrants, because of the dead bodies of a baby that washed up on shore. Y'all remember that? I'll try Googling that real quick. See if I can find it. Let's see here. Baby's body washes up on shore in Europe. Whoop. On beach. Boom. Yep, Syrian boy. Shocking images of a drowned Syrian boy. Yes, that was it right there. That's it. That's the picture that struck the world. It's like, we need to take in these refugees, these poor refugees. That is the image. So this is not unheard of. And yet these liberals are going, hey, Trump's dropping things. That's the leaps they go to. The leaps and bounds that they go to is, You know, there hasn't been human trafficking and smuggling operations from Africa and the Middle East into Europe for 20 years now, it feels like. No, it's Trump dropping deportees into the ocean over there. Yeah. These people are insane. Absolutely insane. This is why they say they have Trump derangement syndrome. These people are absolutely crazy. Politico, every year, tens of thousands of immigrants set off to Europe from Africa in the fragile wooden boats. There's growing evidence that these perilous journeys are marred by horrific crimes. Yeah, just like the coyotes crossing the borders. Like, they have the tree that is filled up with women's underwear from all the women who have been assaulted as they cross the river into Mexico because they can't pay or whatever. The coyotes are just like, oh, well, I'm going to get mine. Like, people are crazy. These people are crazy. It's not criminal, traffickers that are the problem. It's Donald Trump deporting people. These people are absolutely insane. So crazy. The cost of passage, violence and death on the Atlantic and the route to Spain. The same is true for the U.S.-Mexican border, where cartels toss babies overboard due to evade Border Patrol if they are spotted while crossing the Rio Grande, or routinely murder girls and gang assault them, or force immigrants they traffic into slavery or to work off their debt, or to be drug smugglers. But instead of understanding the horrors of mass immigration incentives, the wokies say that the president is chunking immigrants out of planes. Yep. That is 100% the case. And remember, and they know it works. The human traffickers know it works. If you throw a child or a baby off of a boat, they're going to go try to save that child rather than chasing after going after the traffickers, the human traffickers. 100% the case. These people are sick and evil, but the left goes to Donald Trump is worse. Donald Trump is worse. Sick. It's absolutely sickening. And then even the Metro here, which is a European website, talks about it. Fact check. The U.S. is the U.S. using planes for deportation to throw people into the ocean? Since the taking of office in January, Donald Trump administration has deported thousands of flights on to countries in Latin America. According to the data, witnesses at the border, more than 600 deportation flights have taken off since Trump's order earlier this year. The sheer number of arrests in America and the increased aggravated tactics by Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, has sparked outrage among Americans and others. Immigration raids in Los Angeles last month caused intense backlash, causing the city to introduce a curfew, prompting Trump to deploy the National Guard. Trump was slammed for the deporting of many immigrants without a fair trial, to which he replied, "You can't have a fair trial for these people." Why do they get one? If you come into the country illegally, why do you get to all the luxury of having all of our laws? No. If you don't obey the laws aren't going to protect you. I don't understand why people think that this should be the case. Look, we are getting very bad people, killers, murderers, drug dealers, really bad people, the mentally ill, the mentally insane. They emptied out the insane asylums into our countries, that we're getting them out. And the judges can't say, no, they have to have a trial, Trump claimed. No, we are going to have a very dangerous country if we're not allowed to do what we are entitled to do. As tensions continue to boil over, some TikTokers have begun making outlandish claims about where the immigrant flights went. One TikToker said ICE says that they deported people safely, but why do they use expensive military cargo planes that don't always land? Why are shackled bodies washing up on shore in Europe? Why are immigrants being taken to countries that aren't their own? And why are fake agents abducting immigrants? We need answers. Shackled bodies washing up in Europe. Let's unpack these claims. The reference of the shackled bodies washing up in Europe, Spain specifically, are immigrants from Algeria, authorities have said. The police in Majorca opened an investigation to identify the bodies, but say that they were likely handcuffed and thrown into the ocean during a confrontation on board. Decomposition and lack of DNA evidence have made the identification process of these bodies more difficult, they say. Claims from TikTokers that these bodies could be immigrants. They claim that the U.S. are throwing into the ocean are likely are not only likely false, but also implausible. Even if a body from the Gulf of Mexico were to wash all the way to Spain, by the time it reached there, if at all, the body would have been completely decomposed or eaten by animals, or more likely already at the bottom of the ocean. There haven't been many reports of shackled bodies found on the shore of Mexico or America or nearby islands in the Gulf. Correct. That is 100% correct. Trump's deportation numbers. ICE arrests have increased 25% since Trump took office. By the end of April, it's estimated that 139,000 immigrants had been deported from the United States, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Boom. Yeah. So why aren't we finding these bodies washing up on shore here in America or in any other Latin American country? Great question, which means that it is traffickers that we just found here. Shocking image of the drowned Syrian boy. Traffic plight of the refugees. What's more likely the case? Trump is deporting people and throwing them overboard off their airplanes? And why would they need to be shackled? If you're throwing them off an airplane, why do they need to be shackled? It's the same logic of Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. Like, or perhaps he's wondering why you would shoot a man before tossing him out of an airplane. Why do you need to chain him up if you're just going to toss him out of the airplane? Doesn't make any sense. Whatever. But that's what's going on. The left is going absolutely insane right now. If that wasn't enough that you needed. But let's see a couple of these memes that I have pulled up here. We'll start off with this one. This one's also related to like that crazy girl talking about. Here's this guy also following up with it. There have been several of these. I just found the first two that I could find. So here's this guy talking about it.
This is insane, and if it's true, then it could change everything. I knew there was something about these deportations that just didn't sit right with me, and then I found this story about a man in Colorado. His name is Alvin, and it looks like he's been trying to get this story out for the past 2 weeks now. Long story short, Alvin expresses his worry that his brother that was taken by ICE and in quotations deported is no longer alive because Alvin is friends with people that work for private contractors, okay? One of which seems to have a pretty high up rank in the military. Alvin stated that his friend claimed that they were being paid to drop off people in the middle of the ocean. I say people because they are humans as well, regardless of how you want to feel about them being here.
Stopping right there. An anonymous source that he heard from a friend. So a friend of a friend, anonymous source that isn't stated, but he's high ranking in the military. If you're not willing to give names, there's no name drop, there's no point taking their word for it. If you won't put your name back behind something, no one's going to take your word for it. So just starting off with that. Let's get back to this guy's wild accusations.
Here illegally in quotations. Anyways, Alvin's trying to get the word out about what types of planes that these military private contractors have been using. Well, turns out that they're primarily cargo planes, the same cargo planes of which many of you might know open up at the back. And they don't really have any seats, and the seats of which they do have are extremely comfortable. I can tell you from my own personal experiences. But see, this is where Alvin's story gets extremely disturbing, because he stated that most of the planes that, let's just say, have been transporting are disappearing off of radar, and that his friends stated that that is when they do the in quotations drop. He also stated that these specific locations of where these drops are taking place are usual feeding grounds for sharks, so just try to imagine that for 1 second. Now, I don't know how much there is to this story, as he seems to obviously be in panic mode, but also on the run. And I want to know if somebody can track those specific planes and find out if and when they're disappearing off of radar. And at that moment, it would become the biggest story to ever be aired. And do you know why? Well, research into this for me, okay, because I'm not entirely sure that I can tell you everything about this specific event on TikTok. But during Argentina's last military dictatorship, which lasted from 1976 to 1983, by the way, if you didn't know, a horrific practice known as, in quotations, death flights was used. And like I stated, I don't really know how much I can talk about, so I'm just going to let you look into it for yourself. But I mean, how would you know? Like, would they make flight logs public?
Okay. He's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And the fact they're like, oh, it's where sharks are. Well, were you saying that they parachute them in? Because the fall's going to kill them, unless they're saying that they're just wanting the sharks to eat the body, hopefully. But, come on. What's going on here? It's like, these people are insane. They're making these wild accusations against the President of the United States, saying that he's having people thrown into the ocean. These people are insane. And this is what we're talking about. When the lawfare didn't work in their favor, they immediately shift to, they're killing them. They're killing them. They're making up these wild, slanderous statements that they have no proof or evidence for. But, hey, what are you going to do? That's what the left does. The left, when in doubt, lie. It's absolutely insane. So let's get to just a couple of funny 4th of July memes so we can end out the show. Said, I love this one. Hank Hill. You know what's not cool, Bobby? Paying taxes on fireworks to celebrate the day that we quit paying taxes. Oh, man, dude, I love King of the Hill. Hank Hill is one of the best characters ever put to screen, I swear. So good. Next one. How is this okay and this is not? And yeah, this is... The Pledge of Allegiance is no longer really said in schools anymore. It's crazy, you know? I remember saying it every morning as a kid. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I wonder how many generations of kids behind me now don't even know that. It's kind of scary. It's kind of scary. Then, of course, there's this one right here. Freedom of expression. This one's a hate crime. Yeah. I don't want to see any of that on the 4th of July this year. I don't want to see any I don't want to see any American flags being burned. But yeah, it's strange that that's a hate crime, but this one is freedom of expression. It's very odd. But I think that's really about it for now. Yeah, oh. Yeah, the old remember the blue states are the only ones that didn't require voter ID, and all the ones that didn't require voter ID are all blue. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? Yeah. But anyway, I think that's really all I've got for today. This has been Chad with Owasso Live. This was the Morning Loop. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you too can stay in the loop. But I think that's really all I've got for today. So I guess I will catch you all on the next one. It should be hopefully next Monday, but I'll see you all on the next one. God bless you, everybody, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you later, everybody. And...
So Trump just revoked the visas for the UK punk rap duo Bob Vylan, who pissed a lot of people off at the famous Glastonbury Music Festival last week.
The group's frontman said and did a lot of controversial things during the set, which was streamed live by the BBC. But most are complaining about these chants that he led.
Death! Death to the IDF! Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah, it will be free.
And his performance of this song.
Heard you want your country back. Shut the f*** up. Heard you want your country back. You can't have that.
Which is in reference to the huge influx of immigration the UK has experienced over the last decade.
So can Trump actually just revoke someone's visas for songs or comments made during a performance? This revocation is a big deal for the group, who had 26 shows lined up in the US, which will have to be canceled now.
The answer is yes, Trump can do this. The US State Department has super broad discretion when controlling who gets a visa or not. Basically, they just have to find any inkling of a threat to US law, policy, or national security to deny someone. And the consular non-reviewability doctrine, which, yes, is a mouthful, means that you usually can't even fight a visa revocation in court. It's almost always discretionary and final.
So Trump just revoked the visas for the UK punk rap duo Bob Vylan, who